Fire Emblem Gaiden is considered to be the black sheep of the Fire Emblem series. And you know how you can tell it's the black sheep? Because it doesn't play the Fire Emblem theme. Seriously, I kept waiting for it to kick in during this introduction and nothing happened. The original Fire Emblem was not successful. Or at least, not successful in a way that Nintendo wanted. It wasn't a bomb, but it also didn't sell big numbers. However, Fire Emblem had picked up a very small but dedicated following, particularly among game developers. And that might be why Nintendo decided to give Intelligent Systems another swing at it. But there were some changes this time out, and a decision was made to try to pull the game more in line with the popular RPGs. I actually think the result is pretty good, but it's also a big departure for Fire Emblem, so I can understand why series fans reject it. Technically, Fire Emblem Gaiden takes place in the same world as the original Fire Emblem, just a continent away, involving two kingdoms you never heard about before, and featuring characters who, for the most part, never come up again. There's a lengthy backstory that's provided, but the gist of it is that there's a continent with two kingdoms that are divided, and they fall into war. And right at the outset, you'll find a big difference in Fire Emblem Gaiden. You start out in this town and have to converse with people to kick the story off. A civil war has broken out, and someone wants to recruit the man who's teaching you swordplay to go fight in it, but he refuses, and so you go in his place. The game actually consists of 5 chapters, and the viewpoint alternates between chapters. So here I'm playing as Ulm, but once I connect up with the Resistance army and do the battles there, the story switches over to follow Celica in the other kingdom. Even when they do eventually meet up, they have to maintain their own separate armies, which means you'll have 2 rosters of characters that you'll have to worry about. Between battles, there's now this overworld map, and you can see a path on it that you'll have to follow. Selecting your forces and hitting A will bring up a menu here, where you can check out their current status, assign them items, change settings, and save the game. Fire Emblem Gaiden has 2 battery save slots for people. A convenient thing in the game is that when you're starting a new game, if you hold down Select while doing that, you're given the option for Easy Mode, and that doubles the amount of experience rewards that you get. That helps cut down on the grind here. Now you might be going, grind? In Fire Emblem? How could that be? It's all scenarios. Well, not in Fire Emblem Gaiden, and this is one of the big changes that people seem to hate. Fire Emblem Gaiden has dungeons that you can enter, and repeat the combats in them. Combat is very similar to the original Fire Emblem. You move all of the forces on your side, then your opponent moves all the forces on their side, and after a unit moves, they can attack. Or they could attack and then not move. The units all have default equipment that is theirs permanently. No longer do you have equipment that gets used up as you attack. Later on in the game, you can equip things to make units stronger that have a limited number of attacks to them. You gain experience with every hit, a lot of experience if you kill someone, and everyone in the group gets experience if you win a battle. But you don't level up with the battle winning experience. It'll stop 1 point shy of leveling you up, so your first attack in your next battle will level you up. When you level up, you get points assigned to random stats, and a big feature in Fire Emblem Gaiden are these statues where you can change class. It'll reset your experience level if you use it with someone, but not their stats. When you start out, you have your hero, 3 swordsmen, and a spearman, but that statue can be found in the first cave, and you could change their classes to be things like spellcasters and archers. A big change for archers is that if they are attacked at close range now, they can still fire back as much as they like. And for wizards, sometimes their magic costs health. But the magic is so overwhelming, and the cost is so low, you're probably going to want to use it as much as possible. The battle objective in every single fight in Fire Emblem Gaiden is to wipe out the other side. There aren't any battles where you're trying to capture something, or to protect a location, it's just kill everything. While playing, I noticed that the AI tends to be a bit cowardly. I was trying to have the guys who started out at high level do the initial damage, and then follow up with the guys who are still really low level. Just some basic Fire Emblem strategy. Well, when enemies are knocked down below about a quarter of their health bar, they take off running. That actually saved me at one point when I somehow missed repeatedly with an attack, but it can be a bit annoying to have to run people down. While in combat, hitting B brings up a menu where you have the option to end your turn, but interestingly enough, there are multiple options to have the computer play out some basic things for you. Essentially an everybody charge or everybody huddle together command. You can also save the current progress of the battle, and then if you were to come back later, you could pick up the game exactly where you left off. Fire Emblem Gaiden is the last outing for the Fire Emblem series on the Famicom, but it's obviously not the end. Intelligent Systems is just going to keep pounding on Fire Emblem until it eventually catches on. 2 years after this, on the Super Famicom, they do a remake of the original game, bundled with a sequel campaign. Then 2 years after that, they try again. And then in 1999, Fire Emblem Thracia is the very last Super Famicom cartridge published. And then 2 years after that, they switch over to the Game Boy Advance, and that's when the series finally becomes a success. Fire Emblem Gaiden did eventually get a remake. It turned up on the 3DS as Fire Emblem Echoes. Even in Japan, Fire Emblem Gaiden is a divisive game. Basically, it's a divide between not my Fire Emblem and it's fine for what it is. My personal feeling is that it falls short of the original game. Trying to pack in some additional elements from standard RPGs didn't do Fire Emblem a whole lot of good. And now you have a whole lot of battles that are short, but ultimately boring. You don't remember the 10th slime you killed in Dragon Quest, and you're not going to remember the 10th group of bandits that you killed in Fire Emblem Gaiden. Now that said, it is the second best strategic RPG on the Famicom. It just happens to be a bit of a step down from number 1.